Seemingly out of nowhere, a game so suddenly prolific arose from what many thought, myself included, to be a permanent obscurity. Easily the most political AAA game to have ever come out to date, wrapped in a gameplay system so incredibly addicting that it is a direct metaphor to the narrative themes presented in the roughly 5-hour campaign. This being, I believe, my 4th full completion, I am no stranger to this game, and thankfully, the emotions I felt playing Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance so many years ago remain as they were. If anything, the evolution of my skill level since then has only given way to a greater appreciation. Developed by one of the objectively all-time great teams, Platinum Games, creators of some of the best action games I can name, like Bayonetta, Vanquish, and of course, the legendary Nier series. Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance is one of the most fun and quotable games I've ever played, with an incredibly rememberable combat system that incentivizes the player to cut their foes in as many tiny pieces as desired. This is the first of 2 parts that I'm making for this video. The second one will go over gameplay, which includes, of course, combat feel, game performance, just general opinion on graphics, and my personal complaints about it as well. Stay tuned. There will be a lot of sick highlight reels in that one, because this game has, the combat is just amazing. You'll see it throughout this video. But for now, it's time for the narrative. You play as Mr. Lightning Bolt himself, a Liberia-born and genetically augmented, combat heel-wielding, edgy white hair styling, acrobatic cyborg ninja with only a first name, Jack. Or by his assigned moniker in Metal Gear Solid 2, Raiden. But hold up, before we get too far into this, I want to go ahead and say that the Metal Gear universe is ineffably dense, where every character seemingly has a book written about them, so if I get anything wrong about these guys, just let me know. I like learning, and also, I don't like spreading misinformation. Having been stolen from his presumed dead parents' home and raised as a son of the Patriots, a division of the Patriots, a now disbanded private military corporation, where abducted children, primarily from third world countries, are trained to become ultimate killing machines, capable of creating and turning entire wars in favor for the Patriots' investors. Our story begins in the year 2018, far in the past, after the fall of the Patriots in a purposefully unnamed African country. Cyborg Raiden is now working very closely with Prime Minister Imani for the PMC Maverick Security Consulting. Across the continent, Africa has begun to experience a newfound age of peace, thanks in part to Maverick SC and others like them. That is, until Desperado LLC, an American-based PMC, there's so many acronyms, and rival to Maverick, steps in with its very leader, Sundowner, on a ground mission to successfully kidnap and kill Imani, as well as level a quarter of the city with one of the player's first enemies, a Metal Gear Ray. After the death of the Prime Minister, Jack is face to face with his unbeknownst rival and absolute meme, Samuel Jetstream Rodriguez, a Brazilian-Japanese-born cyborg samurai wielding the most anime thing to ever exist, a red electric sword with a sheath capable of firing said sword at sonic speeds to be used in a high-speed draw slash. The player is felled by Sam's coolness and loses both an arm and an eye in the process, but the only thing keeping Raiden alive was the arrival of Boris, his team leader. Jump forward 3 weeks later, Raiden is outfitted, still in sexy cyborg combat heels, but also a dramatically better looking body, which sees him looking even more cool and more capable. Raiden's new body runs on the extracted electrolytes of those slashed in specific spots using blade mode by way of a forbidden shinobi jutsu, the sandatsu, which directly translates to cut and take. Raiden's mission is to covertly infiltrate a Russian oil refinery detached from a town center of an Abkhazian village off the coast of the Black Sea to kill a Mr. Andrei Dosaev. Along with Raiden's covert mission, he comes face to maul with IF prototype LQ-84I, or Blade Wolf, the only of its kind with the ability to verbally communicate. After a decently lengthy boss fight, Raiden dispatches the Spike Pupper and continues his way to the refinery where he is met with an escaped Dosaev and one of the winds of destruction, Mistral.
The cold wind of France.
A half-Algerian, half-French femme fatale who uses the unified arms of the tiny tripod enemies you encountered prior. With an oddly suggestive pre-fight cutscene, you enter my third favorite boss fight, which speaks copiously to the sheer quality that these bouts exude. After being sent across the map once or twice, Raiden finds victory exposing Mistral to a vat of cryonic juice, which, by the way, this remains so for all bosses except for 2, but check out Mistral's corpse. I made sure to only deliver a cut or 2 above her body, and it remained rigid like that due to the cryo freeze during the final farewell talking segment. This is such a perfect utilization of an incredible combat system. Whenever you Zandatsu a boss, they stay exactly like that during their talking segment. It is really cool to me. After dispatching Mrs. Madam and witnessing a sick-as-hell suicide, Raiden is deployed across the world to Mexico in search of a hidden desperado laboratory, with rumors of child kidnappees being taken there for forced indoctrination. After committing the most hilarious of appropriation, Raiden enters a sewer system in search of a secret entrance accompanied by Blade Wolfie, who was repaired and converted to loosely serve Maverick SC and work with Raiden. Within, Raiden comes in contact with George, an incredibly funny-speaking Guyanese super soldier candidate. After saving him, and with a little interrogation, George instructs Raiden on the path he took out of the facility, sending him on his way. Raiden reaches the Lab Unscathed. From here, he discovers one of the most, but also just one of the many, wow, how did this get past the publisher moments in this game. He walks into a stasis room lined from end to end with the brains of stolen children. Their eyes dart directly to Raiden in a shaking manner, as if confused and scared for their lives. Raiden, and hopefully the player, were taken aback by this, and vowed to shut down Desperado for good. Then, in the most 2010s gaming move ever, you take control of a little tripod. For some reason, the same one that Mistral used. In exactly one 5-minute section of the game for whatever reason, probably only to justify the use of a hilariously relatable cutscene.
Let's try using it to access the lab server.
You steal some data, covertly, to not raise alarms or whatever, even though you've been maiming and dismembering every single soldier and machine thus far, but whatever. Continuing on, Raiden reasonably rationalizes that there are still unharvested children located somewhere in this lab, and of course, there are. So, just before he was about to save them all, their captivity cell begins to fill with deadly doses of chloroform, as he is confronted with the unnamed head scientist holding our boy, my man, George, at gunpoint, giving Raiden the option to either save the children in the chamber, or save George. I would have chosen to save George, but since he's a badass, George does a fucking kickflip and staggers aside. I would have chosen George, but since he's a badass, George does a fucking kickflip. I would have chosen George, but since he's a badass, George does a fucking kickflip and staggers a scientist, wasting no time at all, like he should. Oh my god. I would have chosen George, but since he's a badass, George does a fucking kickflip and staggers a scientist, wasting no time at all like he should and is able to. Raiden rushes him and is revived within the echoes of a long since past title bestowed back when Raiden was a son of the Patriots. Jack the Ripper. The scientist was sliced from shoulder to pelvis in 2 pieces. Raiden felt something he hasn't felt in a very long time. An unadulterated lust for blood. Fast forwarding an undisclosed but surely small amount of time, maybe a month, Raiden is en route to Denver, Colorado on a new, very personal mission to the headquarters of Desperado LLC to kill Sundowner and save more kid brains. George, along with the other children, brains included, have been successfully and safely taken into custody by Maverick SC. George is sprier than ever, but unfortunately exudes some of the same violent traits Raiden had when he was still a child soldier. Quickly, Raiden noted that behavior is not one to be valued, which of course saddened my boy, and caused him to hang up the holophone. It wasn't long after, when both Boris and the player came to a surprise happening. Raiden has resigned from Maverick to work as an illegal vigilante, and accomplished a task that the corporate did not approve immediately, like eliminating Sundowner. They weren't given long to talk about it because, like magic, a few police interceptors came flying in to kindly let Raiden know that he looks really funny driving a car, but also they're onto him because he's illegally operating as a combat cyborg without warrant. Honestly, I think it's a nice touch, but generally I can't tell if Desperado is pulling all of the strings or not. This is foreshadowing. They were the ones who provided the police force with all of their exosuits, so really, it's anyone's guess as to if Desperado sicked them on Raiden or not. Regardless, the cutscene that plays was sick as hell, and they're easily my favorite sect of enemies to fight in the game. Incising hundreds of Denver's finest, Raiden navigated with the aid of his team, Kevin, Courtney, Boris, Blade Wolf, and of course, Herr Doctor. These characters are all great in their own rights, especially the Doctor. However, their role in the story is very offhanded, with only finding presence in very dated-feeling, slow-talking segments used for padding, and of course, cutscenes. With Wolf's advice, Raiden jumps across urban rooftops to eventually reach the best damn way to enter a subterranean level possible. Past the abandoned subway, Raiden is mere city blocks away from Desperado headquarters, where, at this point, his psyche is starting to noticeably waver, reaching critical condition when confronted by Jetstream Sam on the numerous holographic signs and eventually center stage in a market circle. As far as you're actually the bad guy story tropes go, this is done exceptionally well. Raiden is a cold-blooded killer who masked his indescribable violence under the guise of being a tool for justice. Sam calls him out on this notion, asking for Raiden to listen closely to the thoughts of his cybernetic brethren. He hears pleas for helps and immense groveling from the policemen around him.
Can we take him? What's wrong? The way he killed all the others? Oh God. Thanks God. Don't let me die. Let's do this! This isn't fair. Little punk. Listen closely now. Die! This life. I watch my wife and son die. This is all I have left.
Before joining Maverick, Raiden has been possibly the greatest asset a PMC could have. In charge of evading terrorist organizations and snuffing not just their leaders, but their entire forces too. Obtaining his nickname, Jack the Ripper, for the ruthless and unrelenting nature of his actions against his fellow man. While it is true that before the events of Revengeance, Raiden has been killing terrorists, disregarding the incredibly complicated political connotations that Metal Gear Solid 2 and 4 presented. As far as the events of Revengeance is concerned, Raiden believed he simply was doing no different, dispatching evil people in service of the weak and righteous. That is, until the shocking revelation Sam detailed for us. These men, hundreds if not thousands that Raiden has rendered over the course of the game, were never in control of their actions to begin with. Explained by Sam, these were likely prisoners, veterans, homeless, people who had nothing in terms of finances, fathers and the like, who needed to provide for both themselves and their families. They enlisted in PMCs with nowhere else to go, and Sam drilled that into Raiden. Essentially, he has been carving to nondescript pieces innocent people under the influence of their cybernetic enhancements, all provided by Desperado LLC. So shook by this news, in a forced stealth section directly after this cutscene, you were required to navigate in an incredibly mentally weakened state, just barely cognizant enough to effectively shamble onto the other side of the road. From here, we are given one of the best cutscenes in gaming as a reward, where we meet Monsoon, one of the Winds of Destruction, and his incredible speech about memes and humanity. But also, when Raiden denies himself of his purpose no longer.
I guessed as much.
Feasting on the insides of your enemies? How easily you ignore the loss of life when it suits your convenience. Who saves the weak from the man who saves the weak?
Of course they get hurt when you set them up as your human shield.
Kill or be killed, Jack. Phnom Penh taught me that. War is a cruel parent, but an effective teacher. Its final lesson is carved deep in my psyche. That this world and all its people are diseased. Free will is a myth. Religion is a joke. And all hormones, controlled by something greater. Memes. The DNA of the soul. They shape our will. They are the culture. They are everything we pass on. Expose someone to anger long enough, they will learn to hate. They become a carrier. Envy, greed, despair, or memes, all passed along. Sam tells me you see your weapon as a tool. Something that saves lives, a means of justice. Now there's a pretty meme. Exquisite. Spared you the burden of all the lives you've taken. Absolved you of guilt when you enjoyed it. That is until the illusion was broken. Don't be ashamed. It's only nature running its course.
You're right. About me, I mean. I knew something was off. After the Patriots, I thought I could walk off the battlefield and into a normal life. But here I am, surrounded by death, arguing philosophy with terrorists. I told myself this was about justice, about protecting the weak, but I was wrong. I learned young that killing your enemies felt good, really good. In America, my friends, my family, they helped me forget the devil inside. But who am I kidding? I was born to kill! The bit about my sword, that means of justice stuff, I guess I needed something to keep the Ripper in check when I was knee-deep in bodies. But you, all this, is a wake-up call to what I really believe, what I really am.
What are you saying?
I'm saying Jack is back. Doctor, turn off my pain inhibitors.
What? This is madness. You
Do it!
All right.
Pain. This is why I fight. This is my normal. My nature.
You've lost your mind. I misjudged you. You are like us after all.
Now you're just being nasty. That nickname you love so much. Want to know how I got it? Actually, why don't I give you a demonstration? I think it's time for Jack to let her rip.
Yeah, if you weren't convinced this game doesn't have the highest quality of writing possible by now, just wait for the end of this synopsis. You will by then. Raiden instructs Herr Doctor to disengage his pain inhibitors in the most edgy anime thing I have ever seen, as he becomes who he was trying to suppress for years, Jack the Ripper. Time for my fourth favorite boss fight in the game, Monsoon, one of the winds of destruction, like Mistral and San. Past Monsoon, you enter the headquarters of Desperado with a new degree of ferocity not yet seen. Jack's entire demeanor shifted from a tragic protagonist to a full-blown anti-hero with very little concern for the life he takes, and frankly, I am so all about that. I am sick and tired of "you should feel bad about this because I said so" tropes. This is sick. I love playing villains and anti-heroes, people not afraid to really stir the mac and cheese. Battling through the lower and then upper levels of HQ, you finally reach a pretty nifty area. A large indoor Japanese garden, commissioned most likely by Sundowner for exclusive VIPs of the investor variety. Busting through in no time at all, we come face to face with an absolute boatload of kitty thinkers, and Sundowner slow walking, prepared to give Jack a speech about his operation and why he's doing it. Like any good supervillain, of course. He does, and then asks us to not damage the young merchandise. Meeting at the rooftop helipad, we finally face Sundowner, garbed in his cybernetic kabuto and explosive-padded Oosore. He is possibly the biggest weeb in the entire game, and not a single person mentions this throughout the entire experience, to my absolute dismay. Dispatching Sundowner and his crony helichoppers, which, in my case, in the absolute most unsettling way possible due to how I cut him up. Just another reminder of what I said a few pages ago. With Mistral's death, I cut Sundowner specifically in his clavicle region, which allowed me to stare right at his severed bust the entire post-combat section. And I couldn't even look away either, the camera wouldn't let me. It genuinely spooked me for a bit, for no real reason. I don't know, it's just one of those things, I guess. Sundowner, in his final moments, tells us that something huge is about to happen in a few hours all the way across the Atlantic Ocean in Pakistan. Not even at Mach 2 will we reach there in time. He's correct, but luckily, Raiden has a little friend I'd like to call Magafjet that goes like Mach 23 or something, that Solus, a company, that's all you're getting, made and test daily. Jack had to get to the launch site fast, and Herr Doctor was happy to provide, while simultaneously recovering the slew of tiny thought bubbles from Desperado. Everything was going smoothly until two stealth jets darted at them. Jack had to do something, so in the most anime thing possible, before a doctor could catch Jack.
Your sacrifice will not be forgotten.
Now having created an actual crater in the ground, Jack had to book it. 'Tis some method of transportation, eventually settling for something so him, a sick blue chopper. Leaving behind his number for the owner in the most considerable anti-hero fashion. Exploding on the highway like a slug from a .45, Jack is stopped by an odd sight. Blade Wolf, who leapt from Doctor's transport shortly after his fall, was talking to none other than Jetstream Sam, Jack's only equal and true rival. This is my second favorite boss fight in the game, and it is so ridiculously fun. The Western motifs of camera angles, music, even an actual tumbleweed that bounces past the middle of the swordsman is just so good. This is such a well-conducted segment. Many believe this to be the peak of the narrative, which I humbly disagree. Raiden accepting that he's Jack the Ripper is the more important narrative occurrence if you ask me. But ultimately, I can easily respect the differing opinion in its entirety. This is the only mission, or as it's called, file, in the game that contains exactly one fight, and despite this, I still found that it took me about half an hour to complete, yet it felt more on the lines of 10 or 20 minutes. Eventually, after many tries, because I guess Jack was having an off day and Samuel was feeling generous, the Jetstream falls as the only enemy in the entire game that you can't see his guts, which was the best possible decision a writer could make for a rival character's storyline. We honor Sam for showing us our true nature. And Blade Wolf cops his monically modified family blade for safekeepings. This is also foreshadowing. Arriving to Solus in true Kojima x Platinum Games fashion, we get this great scene. I changed my previous statement. Sundowner has been dethroned. I love this game so much. You have no idea. Not even an hour ago, we just witnessed a player character throw away his humanity and embrace his true lust for bloodletting or whatever. Then this.
Are you, Mr. Raiden, sir?
My god, you have no idea how much of a kick I get from this game. You have no idea. We meet up with Sunny, a girl whom Jack saved in Metal Gear Solid 4 from the Patriots. Turns out she's a genius in the field of rocket engineering and designed by herself the rocket system in the superjet we were about to be using to essentially warp across the Earth. We only had about an hour before Pakistan gets hit with whatever Sundowner was talking about, and this baby could get you there in just about 30 minutes, not including acceleration and deceleration periods, wasting no time.
Ready for countdown.
No time for that. Ignition!
The final mission has Jack and Wolf on schedule at Shahbazabad Airfield, on the reasoning that this is the only American-occupied airport to protect the landing of Air Force One, which was coming very, very soon, apparently, and to be occupied entirely by Desperado ground units. Kill, 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 and you find to no amusement whatsoever, Blade Wolf has been critically injured sometime after he decided to scout ahead. With no choice but to continue, Jack pressed forth until from the very earth rumbled our final foe. The quivering asphalt gave way to a sight to surpass Metal Gear. An arachnid or crustacean-inspired mech the size of at least 3 buildings. Metal Gear Excelsis. The end was nigh. Desperado LLC does not work for free. Their entire motive was to jumpstart the war economy and become first in line for every PMC operation held on Earth. That's where this man, the meme himself, the guy who is literally a United States Senator, comes in. Senator Armstrong was the big man on top, paying for Desperado's every whim. Somehow, someway, the writing team managed to make Senator Armstrong, a character whom we see for exactly one other cutscene, from which he wasn't even the main focus of anyway, incredibly influential. Like, one of my favorite bosses of all time, easily. In true 21st century fashion, the appearance of Metal Gear Excelsis was posted on absolutely every news site possible, and such Air Force One was turned around justly, leaving room for Jack and Armstrong to fight for the world's future. But first, we need to rid ourselves of a massive problem. What? The game could have ended here, but it doesn't. You keep on going. This wasn't even the first half of the final boss, this was the first third. Because now comes probably the greatest speech in all of gaming. Better than the meme speech, better than Jack realizing his true nature, or whatever. That is pittance compared to this segment.
I don't have time for this. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. The hell are you thinking? Played college ball, you know. At some cushy Ivy League school. Try University of Texas. Could have gone pro if I hadn't joined the Navy. I could break the president in two with my bare hands. Don't fuck with this, Senator. What the hell are you? Nice!
Typical politician. Big promises, but all talk.
What?
Jumpstart the economy. What a load of bullshit! All you care about is lining your own pockets. That and your approval ratings. You've got no principles. Just like all the rest. If America's gone to shit, you're just another maggot crawling in the pile.
All right, the truth then. You're right about one thing. I do need capital and votes. Wanna know why? I have a dream that one day every person in this nation will control their own destiny. A land of the truly free, damn it! A nation of action, not words, ruled by strength, not committee! Where the law changes to suit the individual, not the other way around! Where power and justice are back where they belong! In the hands of the people! Where every man is free to think, to act for himself! Fuck all these lunatic lawyers and chicken shit bureaucrats! Fuck this 24/7 internet spew of trivia and celebrity bullshit! Fuck American pride! Fuck the media! Fuck all of it! America is diseased, rotten to the core. Wipe the slate clean. Burn it down! And from the ashes, a new America will be born! The weak will be purged, and the strongest will thrive, free to live as they see fit. They'll make America great again!
What the hell are you talking about?
You still don't get it. I'm using war as a business to get elected! So I can end war as a business. In my new America, people will die and kill for what they believe! Not for money, not for oil! Not for what they're told is right. Every man will be free to fight his own wars!
How the hell did you get elected?
Well, I don't write my own speeches. You should try fighting for what you believe in sometime, Jack. Not for a company or a nation or for anyone else.
Maybe I was wrong about you.
Am I finally getting through? I'll rid this world of pointless wars, Jack.
I was wrong. You're not greedy. You're batshit insane!
You weren't born poor. You've never been hungry. You don't know what it's like to fight and steal and kill just to survive.
But you did survive! Through sheer force of will, following your own set of rules. With your own two hands, you took back your life!
And now, I'll take yours.
Nanomachines, son. They harden in response to physical trauma. You can't hurt me, Jack. Time to end this.
After breaking both Jack's knife and his knuckles, Blade Wolf throws down Sam's blade, realistically the only tool capable to kill Armstrong. And once again, some more poetic justice. From Excelsis to Armstrong proper, this is an hour-long boss fight, in a game that took me 4.5 hours to complete. 1/4 of my playtime, this entire run-through, was spent fighting and talking to Senator Armstrong. I think that's how the writers did it. They took great advantage of the fact the campaign is so considerably short and used it to flesh up Armstrong into the ultimate boss fight with barely any setup. Jack steals his resolve one last time, and now begins the great finale.
I said my sword was a tool of justice. Not used in anger. Not used for vengeance. But now I'm not so sure. And besides, this isn't my sword. Let's dance. guaranteed the status quo will go on. For a while longer, at least. War will continue as an institution, as industry. Men will fight for reasons they don't understand. Causes they don't believe in. But at least I'll leave a worthy successor. You, Jack. You carve your own path. Use whatever methods you see fit. You don't let legal bullshit get in the way. And if it costs a few lives, so be it. Inside, we're kindred spirits. You and I.
Raiden Jack looks down at the dead senator, drenched in his blood, almost disappointingly. He says nothing in response, because to a certain degree, he knows Armstrong was right. Armstrong's mission was to rebuild America, and presumably the world, to his ideals of a perfect society, where there is no law, no order, except for the word and actions inflicted upon the common man to one another. Jack did not share in Armstrong's sentiment for reinstitution, of course. However, he did share an identical methodology utilized by him: to surpass and kill, all in your way to reach what you find most desirable. Senator Armstrong was a killer by different means to Jack, enlisting others to do his work, while Jack took matters in his own hands, in a bitter case of irony, for world peace. Peace will never be unanimously agreed upon, no matter where you go, and the method to achieve it is improbable and nearly impossible. Which is why I'm closing part 1 with a quote from Raiden, not Jack, talking to Imani at the very beginning of the game. Thank you for watching.
There's a saying I like. One sword keeps another in the sheath. Sometimes the threat of violence alone is a deterrent. Sometimes by taking a life, others can be preserved. It's the code the samurai lived by.
We passed to 90 subs, boys. Woo! Oh yeah. 100. Honestly, this might be the 100 sub special. I mean, I'm just saying, we're super close as of me right now recording this. Part 2 of this comprehensive analysis of Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance will be about the gameplay, as well as some gripes I have, and of course the graphics, audio, music, all that fun stuff. The things I just couldn't, dedicate a whole nother 10 pages to in this already 30-minute recording. You understand. Thank you for sticking to the end. If you like what I do, kindly cast a gander at my other work, or even better, subscribe and join me on my quest to achieve pure gamerdom. It's a fun time. I mean, I'm going nowhere, so stick around. You're always welcomed. Thank you. And, have a good night.
Become a force storm.